Hi, everyone, and welcome to Why and How to Combine SEO and PPC for Stronger Results. I am your host today, Jen Karsner, and I am so excited to be here with all of you guys on the call. Today, we're going to talk a lot about SEO and PPC, and we have a really incredible speaker set up for you, Cecilia Lopez, who I'm going to introduce in just a second. I want to go to the next slide. Let me first go ahead and introduce you guys to who Local IQ is. In our partnership with WordStream, Local IQ is the leading digital marketing expert with deep roots in over 260 communities across the country, and it's our passion to really help businesses and communities grow. We are a media conglomerate made up of several different organizations like Reach Local, WordStream, USA Today Network, and of course, Local IQ. And what's incredible about Local IQ is we have uniquely engaged audiences, industry-leading technology, deep digital marketing expertise, and insights from over 300,000 clients across the country. Our award-winning proprietary technology and digital platform filled with data-driven campaigns that work for your clients and your agency, plus premier partnerships to further drive results. We are Local IQ, and we are excited to be partnering together with WordStream. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce you to our speaker today, Cecilia Lopez. All right, Cecilia, it's all you.
All right, thanks, Jen. Hey, everyone, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Cecilia Lopez. I am a client success manager here at Reach Local. And I'll go ahead and give a little bit of background about myself since I'll be chatting with you for the next 30, 45 minutes or so. But I started at Reach Local as an intern way back in 2015 while I was still in college, and I got to learn quite a lot here, and it guided me in my career. And nowadays I am a client success manager, and what I do here is manage various marketing products and coordinate with a lot of different teams to make sure that we are delivering on our marketing strategies, be they search, SEO, Facebook, and so on. My background, however, is in literature and writing. And in my spare time, I am a nerd, a travel junkie, and I am a cheese enthusiast. I have bolded these words because you will note that I'll be using quite a few food analogies throughout this presentation, because digital marketing is something of at least successful digital marketing is something of a smorgasbord with different products and different strategies and approaches, not unlike a charcuterie board. Hence the charcuterie board here on this slide. But on today's agenda, we're going to go ahead and start with the foundation of your digital marketing, which is your website. Then we're going to have an overview of search, of SEO and search. And finally, we're going to tie it all up with complementary strategies on these two products. Your site, of course, is the foundation of your digital marketing. And having a site, of course, is the first step, but we want to make sure that your site is good too. And to look at the site in this way, in its holistic sense, we kind of have to step back a little bit and look at how we socialize in person. In person, there are a lot of different elements of communication. And by now, it's pretty well known that only 7% of our communication is actual spoken words. The remainder of our communication is nonverbal, and this includes things like voice and tone and body language. And this is all well and good. Certainly, it's important to be able to communicate with the words that you speak, but these nonverbal factors are hugely important too. And even on the phone, let's say someone calls in with a request, you can get these things across where it just becomes not just the words, but also the voice and tone, and that allows people to kind of gauge how a conversation is going. But when you're not there in person to make a sale or handle a request, well, your website becomes your salesman. So it's essential then that you are presenting your business or your agency in a very accurate manner. And this is more than just the text on the site. In fact, I would argue that the elements of personal communication have some analogous items here when it actually comes to your website, where it's a similar situation where 7%, I would argue, is just your site content, your text. The other 38% is content, and this includes brand voice within the text and images, logos, and other branding items that really beef up your site and your presence. And the other 55%, which is the largest chunk, being accessibility. Is your site easy to navigate? Does it make sense? Are there a lot of different pages? Are you presenting yourself as an authority on your business or services? This is something that might seem a little harder to gauge, because sometimes when it comes to being on a site, I'm sure you've been on a site before where for some reason you're just not feeling it. Maybe it's hard to navigate. And really, you don't have to have a literature background like me or anything like that to just determine what is about a site that isn't really working for you. And so there comes the communication conundrum. You may have great staff in person and on the phone, but if your site is lacking, then it can be troublesome as you work on your digital marketing. Which brings us to SEO, or search engine optimization. This is a product that can and often does resolve this communication conundrum with the website versus how you are in person or on the phone. SEO is an organic and long-term presence solution. When I say organic, I mean not paid, such as search. It's complement. It is a long-term solution, and I do emphasize long-term. With SEO, you're looking at about 6 to 12 months before you start seeing results, just because of the way the product works. You might notice here that I have a picture of brisket, because like brisket, which you cannot deep fry, you have to kind of slow cook. You've got to slow cook the brisket. SEO is a similar situation. For it to cook well and for the results to come in, you have to kind of set it in the smoker and check on it every so often. And then by the end, you have a nice juicy piece of brisket. A similar situation here. The reason SEO takes so long is because we have to first plan the strategy, the SEO strategy that is, and the SEO strategy will be targeting things like the site, the schema, the organization, the navigation. We want to make sure that that site makes sense, not just to people, but to search engines. So SEO analysts will be doing an audit of the site and making sure that it is set up as it should be. And if not, then certainly making sure that we have a plan going forward to correct these aspects of the site that many people wouldn't necessarily be able to vocalize by just landing on the site, but they do affect how people behave on your site in a more subliminal way. Now, SEO is great for almost all verticals. There are some exceptions though. Since SEO is a long-term and organic solution, businesses such as urgent care or other services that are very much time sensitive, those would struggle with SEO because those are for immediate action, and those sorts of inquiries, there would be search ads behind them, and those would be the ones appearing in the top of the search results when you do a Google search. So again, almost all verticals with some exceptions. Again, SEO is an organic presence solution, and there are quite a few core elements that drive success in SEO. Things like keywords, that's to say the keywords that you are optimizing your content around, the content itself, the length of the content, the quality of the content, images, and updates to site logic to make your site easy to navigate. This can sometimes be cosmetic things like switching out images for more high quality images, or making the phone number bigger in the header, or making the contact us form more prominent. Key metrics that indicate success are visits, time on site, and bounce rate. When we look at these, we can determine how well SEO is working. We want to make sure that we're driving traffic, that we're driving those visits to the site. We want to make sure that people are spending time on the site, to whether they're browsing from page to page or just engaging there. We want to make sure that when they land on the site, they investigate it a little more than, say, landing on the site, realizing that they found something that they are that they don't need or don't want instead of what they were looking for, and then jumping off. On the right here, I've included some organic search results. I did a search for Dallas florist, and this is what came up. We've got a map pack here in the top, Mockingbird Lane florist, and then as we go down, those are our organic results. In other words, organic results are the basic things that come up when you type in a Google search. They're not the ads, and they're under the map pack. As with all marketing products, there are some pros and cons to SEO, though. The pros, of course, with SEO is improved presence. In working on that site logic and making those updates, we do climb up the rankings little by little, which means that when people are searching for something, be it a recipe or a service, we appear higher up in the search results, and people don't have to look as hard for us, or worse, find someone else's content and go with them because we aren't ranking high enough. It does build a lot of authority and credibility. One major SEO strategy is adding a blog to a website. And this works by adding not just more information and content, but also adding more pages, which is something that Google looks at pretty favorably on your website. It's looking for that spider web of pages that really indicates authority and subject matter expertise, no matter what kind of business or agency you are. And when you have that authority and credibility, you get return visitors, which is always a good deal. And finally, you get a better conversion rate. If your site is ranking organically, people spot it, and then it's right there. They don't have to dig for anything else. If they find all the information they're looking for, if your site's optimized properly and it's got the right keywords, the right content, it's exactly aligned with what people are looking for, you get a better conversion rate. Now for some of the cons. SEO does take a long time, and certainly time is of the essence for many business owners, but it does take a while. Looking at, it's more of a 6 to 12 month commitment, and it takes a long time because as we build the strategy and start publishing the pages and doing the markups, Google's crawlers are slowly indexing the site, and then that is to say, reading the site, so to speak, to make sure that it makes sense and that everything's appropriately organized. And not only then are the crawlers indexing the site, then it's taking note of how people are interacting with the page, and then it'll either lift or ding the ranking. And so this process can take a long time. Another con is that there are no guarantees. This is true for all digital marketing. There is no guarantee in success because there can be a lot of factors that prevent us from getting to where we want to be. And unfortunately, most of these factors are out of control. People who work in search and SEO can tell you this, that Google is always switching things up, and to a certain extent, we are at the mercy of Google. So no guarantees there. And another con is that there is competition, certainly by larger brands or perhaps brands that have been working on SEO a lot longer, and that competition can often hamper how long and where you rank in SEO. Nonetheless, this isn't to deter you from SEO at all. SEO is a hugely important product, not just in resolving that communication conundrum that I referred to earlier, but also in the pros here of improved presence, authority and credibility, and better conversion rate. Here's a quick look at some search engine results anatomy. We've got a few more here just to show you what they look like. Everyone has seen these before, and I just wanted to point out here that where it says Dallas Florist and Flower Delivery by Dr. Delphinium, that is a title tag, and the description below it is the description. These are important things that appear when you search, so you want to make sure that you're paying extra attention to these, but more on that here in SEO best practices. The main thing when it comes to SEO is doing your keyword research. You want to create content that people are looking for. Because if you're creating content for something that people aren't looking for, be it an obscure service, recipe, or what have you, it's not really, Google's never really going to get that enough information for it to know, all right, where's this, where and how should we rank this? So do complete that keyword research and take your time on that so that you can really create what people are looking for. Number 2, Optimize site speed. This is a hugely important ranking factor. Interestingly enough, Google's a little bit hush hush about what sorts of ranking factors you want to focus on. But Google outright states that site speed is a hugely important ranking factor. And this makes sense because certainly I'm sure you all have gone onto a site and it's taken forever to load and it becomes really frustrating, especially when you need a service right then and there. So site speed is huge and definitely something to work on. Another best practice is to use images, especially high quality images. Images are eye-catching, people and colorful, people look at them. It often engages people to click and interact more, and that's one way of boosting more time on site. And when Google notices that people are spending more time on your site, it tells Google, aha, this is a page with high quality content, and we should definitely keep this one here. And then last, title tags. Encourage people to click with engaging titles. In the last slide where I was pointing out the title tags about the florist, that's one thing that you want to focus on. It is the first thing that people are going to read when they are looking for something or need something in an organic search. So make sure to think up some good title tags because that'll encourage people to click, and then once they're there, they can investigate the site and ideally take action, be it submit a form, place a phone call, etc. Now, with SEO, now that your site makes sense to search engines and to people, success within search is within reach, which brings us to SEM, aka PPC. Search is an auction-based lead gen solution. You are charged per click, and it's great for almost all verticals with some exceptions. Now, you might notice here that I have an image of fries being fried because unlike brisket, which takes a long time to cook, fries cook really quickly in the fryer and they're hot and crispy and ready to go. Search is just like that. Essentially, you flip a switch and the campaign starts spending. And when the campaign starts spending, you start getting some leads too. So it's a really, really fast acting paid lead gen solution. And the verticals that could struggle more with search are business to business, along with verticals with longer buying cycles or things that require a lot of research. And you can offset that with SEO or with other marketing products, but it is one good thing to know that while search is a very powerful lead gen solution, it is important to know that certain industries or verticals might have a slower time just due to the nature of their services. Search, aka PPC, is again paid advertising, and the core elements that we look at are keywords, site and landing page, quality score, targeting, and budget. Key metrics are click-through rate, cost per click, and cost per lead. On the right here, I ran a search for a Dallas florist, and I decided to grab a screenshot of these ads that appeared. We see this first one here, and it includes some more links for us to investigate too, and then the one below is a little shorter, a little more truncated, but certainly we've all seen these before, and more than likely we've clicked on them without even realizing. Now, there are some pros and cons to search, as there all are with all marketing products. The pros, of course, is fast results. Again, you start spending and you start getting leads. It's pretty great, really powerful, and it is a game changer. Along with that, in search, you can be persuasive and promotional in your ad text. This is definitely the time to highlight all the perks of your business, be it that you do free quotes, or that you're running a special, or that you've been in business for the past 50 years and you have a great rating. This is your time to persuade people to pick you over all the other competitors, not just in the paid results, but also in the organic results. Another great thing about search is that it's really easy to make changes. Let's say you've got an ad and you notice that maybe it's not really getting the kind of engagement you wanted. No problem. It's easy to go in there, edit the wording, set it, and let it run. This is also great if you are a business that runs a lot of promotions and specials, because it's really easy for us to just go in there and make that quick edit, and there you go. Now, the cons, search can be expensive, and more on that later. Since it is charged per click, and depending on the keywords, it can get very expensive very fast. Like SEO, there is no guaranteed success. Sometimes it's about just getting into the game at the right place and time. Other times it's just that Google's at it again and changing up policy and making it difficult for ads to show. So that's another thing too. And certainly it can be pretty volatile because of the fact that it is an auction-based product, and there is a lot of competition. You'll see that things are changing week by week and day by day in the campaign activity. Now I decided to go ahead and take a closer look at a search ad, hence the ad anatomy lesson. And again, here's a search for Flower Shop Dallas. I wanted to point out these 4 links that appeared, and these are site links. You might notice that they take up a lot of space in the search engine results. This is exactly what we want, and this is why we make sure to enable these kinds of extensions on ads so that they can appear and take up much more real estate in the search engine results, because then certainly it's much more eye-catching than the other shorter, more truncated ads. So these are all things that we make sure to add to our ads when we are running them. And then this allows people with a broad search like Flower Shop Dallas, this allows people to kind of get a little more into the details with the site link extensions here. Here are a few other extensions I wanted to point out. The first one, structured snippets, tags along the end of the ad, and you can pick things from things like types, services, courses, etc. In this case, we've got one indicating the types of flowers that you can purchase. Below that, we have another ad, and this one pulled in the review extension. This is great if you are very proud of the reviews and you have a history of giving great service. One thing to note, though, is that Google being Google, the second headline and the second description line, along with the extensions, sometimes don't appear just because of the way that Google sets it up. Now, normally Google will pull these extensions in if they expect it to lead to a higher cost per click, but there will be many times where you'll see an ad and it'll be missing some of these things, just because from there Google decides when and what to show in the search results. Now, some search best practices. First things first, keyword dense ads are important. You want to be a straight shooter in your ads. And this is something that I resisted when I first started as a client success manager. In my head, I thought, all right, let's shine in our ads. Like I was ready to come in with the pizzazz and all the verbiage, but then I realized, or rather my lovely colleagues convinced me, that it's better to just be a straight shooter. Now is not the time to break out the thesaurus and treat it like a creative writing assignment. Now is the time to just pick the best pieces of your business, make it as short and sweet and informative as possible so we can get the highlights. And the reality too is that people don't read ads as carefully as we would think. We are the answer, so to speak, to someone's question, and we want to make sure that the most salient points are there in the ads for people to see, and then from there, click. Another important thing to consider is targeting. It is essential to consider staff, service area, and drive time. You've got to be flexible and realistic here. And I think this is best described with an example. Let's say you are a small plumber. You've got about 3 techs and you're in a city like Dallas. And certainly you may pride yourself on your service and your know-how. And so you approach your search campaign with the logic of, yes, I will do a large radius because my service is worth it and I am willing to drive to prove how great I am. Certainly this is a nice sentiment, but if you have 3 techs, you have to consider the staff and the service area and the drive time. Because if you've got a 30-mile radius and you send one guy way down to the south and then to appointment in the north, your techs spend more time driving from appointment to appointment than they would if you just brought the radius into something much more reasonable, like 8 to 10 miles. Now for another example, let's say you are a dentist in a big city. You might think, I am going to have a large radius because I am an excellent dentist, I have all the accreditations, and people will drive to come see me for dental. Realistically, most people aren't really willing to drive that far at all for any service, especially when they can find other services even closer. So it's good to be realistic there and just kind of ask yourself, well, would you drive 30 miles to the dentist if you had so many other options to choose in your surrounding areas? So I think this is one where it's definitely important to be realistic and put yourself in that situation. What would you do as a business person, right? Number 3, and this is hugely important, is to be flexible and realistic with keywords, with your site, Google's whims, and more. The nature of search is that you often have to switch things up a little bit, whether it's your keywords. Maybe after some time, they aren't really working because people are searching for something differently than they were 5 years ago. Certainly with your site, it's important to be able to make quick updates to your site if necessary. Google's whims, well, Google rolls out new policies and the algorithm changes, and we of course adjust our sales, no problem, find a solution. But it's good to keep an open mind with search because we are at the mercy to a certain extent of Google and what sort of policies they're getting up to. And this is for us to just adjust and move on. The last thing is to track your leads and do not be fooled by data. Some search campaigns I've noticed look stellar. They have a really high click-through rate, a low cost per click, and overall it looks like an excellent campaign until you actually check the leads and engage for quality. And maybe there aren't as many leads as you'd like to. So it is essential to track your leads and don't go by data alone. You want to make sure that you're driving quality leads that are relevant to your business. One more thing I wanted to point out, and this is another best practice, is that keywords plus landing page equal quality scores. And I'm going to go ahead and just refer to something a few slides ago where I had highlighted the core elements of search, and I had included keywords and landing page being some important factors. These two together, along with the ads, make quality scores. And quality scores are a 1 through 10 score assigned to keywords based on how relevant they are to the landing page, to people's searches, and so on. And quality scores, while not an indicator of campaign performance, do give a pretty clear indication of where we need to improve and how we can improve. When I look at campaigns, I always make sure to take a peek at quality scores because this is something that isn't a metric such as leads or click-through rate, but something that really tells me, all right, I know where we can improve and I know how we can improve. Now this is where SEO and search come together. It kind of goes like that song, Lean on Me When You're Not Strong, which I am not going to sing, but I have left the lyrics here for you. When one product is struggling, the other can kind of step in and make up for what is lost. And our company is set up so that us client success managers can easily collaborate with digital presence managers who manage SEO on these products together. And here is how we do that. Scenario 1, and unfortunately extremely common scenario, prohibitively expensive search keywords. I've got a little screenshot here of one such keyword where the starting click is almost $56. I have seen some clicks go as high as $90, and that is per click, which is, well, very expensive. And this is common in industries such as medical, dental, and insurance. And when these keywords are prohibitively expensive, we find that the campaign struggles to spend and certainly struggles to garner leads because we might not have the budget to support these kinds of keywords that are starting at just $60 per click. Well, the good news is that SEO does not deal with this sort of search auction-based system at all. No, instead with SEO, we can go ahead and focus on these same keywords so that we appear organically in the event that these keywords are too expensive for us to be relying on to garner leads. So that's where SEO can work on that. We get those organic rankings so that people can find us, even though they might not be able to find us as well in search because we just don't have the budget for that visibility. Another scenario, let's say a client is frustrated with how long SEO is taking to garner results. This is a common situation, and certainly it makes sense. You sign on for marketing and you start expecting things to happen, and with SEO, they are happening, but they're happening in the background and they are taking some time. Now, when this happens, we can go ahead and look at search. Search is much more of an instant gratification product, not to say that it doesn't have its own unique challenges and factors that we have to look at, but while SEO matures in this case, search can go ahead and start bringing in those leads while Google's crawlers finish indexing the site and ranking it and so on. Scenario number 3, low keyword quality scores are spiking cost per click. These are some sample quality scores that I was referring to a while ago. We have a couple here that are less than optimal in the 3 to 2 out of 10 range, and we have one that's better with 7 out of 10. When quality scores are low, the cost per click spikes. And when the cost per click is too high, we find that we're not able to generate as many leads because those clicks are really expensive. And when that cost per click is lower, that means that we have a much better, we're using the budget in a much more efficient way so that we can garner more leads. But when this happens, SEO can go ahead and resolve this by making sure that these keywords are more present on the site, and that will boost these quality scores. And when you raise the quality scores, you get a lower cost per click. When you have a lower cost per click, you have that exceptionally efficient use of the budget, and that allows you to have more budget left over to garner more leads. And that's exactly what we want. Scenario number 4, an SEO client wants to add and promote a new focus. This is great, and a new focus deserves a promotional approach. So search definitely fits the bill here. This will yield fast results, so you don't have to wait months for Google's crawlers to determine organic ranking. And this isn't to say that SEO won't be working on this in the meantime. Certainly SEO can promote these extra focuses as well, but if it's something new, let's say you've got a new piece of technology at your business or a new service that you want people to know about, search is your product, and you can run them very well with SEO running alongside it. Now that I've given quite a lot of information about each product, we can look at SEO and search in action. This is a former campaign of mine, and I have data here from June 2020 to July 2021. The first graph here was in June to July 2020. The second graph was a year later. In this time, we were running search and SEO. The budgets have not changed in this time frame. But you might notice that there was a 3-time lead volume increase over the year. What changed? Certainly wasn't the budget. Instead, what was happening is that while the search campaign was garnering those leads in the beginning and carrying the marketing strategy, that search campaign was also maturing and optimizing and really hitting its stride within Google's algorithm, so to speak. In the meantime, SEO was just ramping up. The strategy had just been plotted and The SEO analysts were working on making those site logic updates and keyword optimizations so that the rankings could improve. A year later, we see that really paid off. A year in, both campaigns are mature. We can see just how much better the lead volume is. And certainly we can see too that you'll notice that SEO and search both take up more of the graph than before. And I've got the green arrow indicating organic search, which is SEO, and the blue arrow indicating paid search. So this is a real life example of products that worked really well paired together. And another great thing too with running the products together is that I, the client success manager, look at the search campaign. If I notice that quality scores are low, all I have to do is let the SEO team know that this is what I'm seeing, and I can ask them to go ahead and add this into future SEO content, and they can go ahead and make it happen. And in fact, I have seen this happen, and it did boost those quality scores, and in turn helped the search campaign perform. In fact, this campaign here is one of them where I was able to collaborate with my digital marketing counterpart to make sure that this particular advertiser had the best digital marketing experience, and they continue to grow. They are thrilled with our services and are considering adding even more services to their digital marketing charcuterie board, so to speak.
Hey, Cecilia, I want to
Yes.
just pause you for a second because we have a lot of questions coming in about this specific slide. So I wanted to have you answer a couple questions while we're on the slide.
Of course.
Was the quality as high as the quantity is what Jacqueline would like to know.
Could you repeat that question?
Was the quality as high as the quantity?
Oh, yes, Jacqueline, that is a great question. And the quality was as high as the quantity, which is not something which is certainly what we're always aiming for, but not something that always happens. So yes, with this one, the quality was excellent. We have great calls and great forms coming in.
Also, in this example, are leads defined as clicks or actual goal completions in general?
In this case, leads are calls, forms, and chats. That is to say, these actions indicating intent. So someone calling in for a service or booking an appointment, and likewise a form submit asking about availability for a certain product or service.
Okay, and that's based off of Google Analytics, correct?
This is based off our proprietary tracking code that we have clients install on their site so that we can go ahead and track campaign performance and these leads coming in.
Okay, perfect. Those are the only questions pertaining to this specific slide. I will let you continue. Thank you.
Oh, great, thank you. But most importantly, here is where we tell the story. And this is my favorite part of being a client success manager. I get to contextualize data in a way that makes sense to me and to the advertiser and other teams. I walk them through lead quality and volume, search metrics, visibility, and suggestions. And a lot of these suggestions often include site updates. And when there's an SEO analyst around, and that is to say my counterpart on another team, I can very easily collaborate with them to go ahead and make sure that the site and site logic is where it needs to be, such that this site makes sense not just to people, but also to search engines. Which leads us to the fact that 2 is better than 1. Organic presence plus paid presence means that you are easy to find. No matter where you are, people have an easy time finding you, and people will come back when they can find you easily. This is great for people who tend to ignore ads or people who do a lot of research. No matter how they find you, they're presented to them on a silver platter, a site chock full of great information, content, and accessibility. That is to say, many ways for them to get in contact with you so they can enjoy your services and your knowledge. In life, there are some pairings that just work. This is chicken and waffles, wine and cheese, blue and orange, and we pair these things together because they are opposite, so to speak, that is equal and complementary. Wine is great on its own, cheese it's great on its own too, but when you put them together, they're a legendary pairing, and SEO and search are no exception. Put them together and you have demonstrable growth in your digital marketing, and it allows the teams, the respective teams, to collaborate on these items so that we can truly bring that digital marketing charcuterie board straight to you and come with great results and a lot more growth moving forward. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you joining me today.
Awesome. All right, so we will open it up for questions now. I do have one right here. What is the best way to establish an organic traffic baseline after a full website overhaul?
That would really depend on the amount of traffic that you are receiving at that time, whether you are running how much work has been done on the site, and that would also really depend on what the strategy was too. So unfortunately, I cannot give a direct baseline. That is something that people that say are SEO analysts or that your account reps would have more information as far as a baseline on.
Are there any exceptions for SEM? Do you have any examples of an exception for SEM?
Sure. Sometimes I find that industries with long buying cycles or more commercial industries struggle with search. For example, a commercial X-ray machine vendor. These machines can go for up to $70,000, sometimes more. And running a search campaign for that, which is not just more business to business, but also a big ticket item that requires a lot of sign-offs and approvals from offices and so on. I find that those, and many of my colleagues will tell you the same, that those often struggle to gain traction in search just because that might not be exactly where and how people are looking for these things. So things with long buying cycles, that's an example. Also, extremely costly items, I find, often can take a while too, just because fewer people are looking for them. And other very niche services can lead the campaigns to be a little slower and sometimes deliver limited results.
All right. Next question is, why is it better to have a blog page on your site versus social media posts, or separate blog linking to your main site? Is it just a matter of SEO purposes, or is it deeper than that?
So just to clarify, the question was whether having blog posts on the site is more important than having them on their own.
Yeah, so it says that basically they want to know, like, if you have a blog page on your site versus social media post, or a separate blog linking to your main site, meaning you don't have the blog actually on your site. Is it just a matter of SEO purposes, so almost like having it as a landing page versus actually having your site? I would say that it's more for SEO purposes for sure, because you have landing pages that are just built for SEO purposes that are going to drive traffic to your main site. Would you agree with that, Cecile? Yeah.
I like the idea of having the blog on the site, because then if people are looking for something and they happen to encounter your blog standing alone, it becomes a little limiting, and then they have to do a little more work to actually get to the site. Whereas if the blog is already a part of the site, they can land on the site, and if they need or want more information, they can just click up to the bar and just investigate the blog from there. And then it makes it a much more cohesive experience for users too, to have the blog and the social media links on the site. That way they don't have to hunt down different information in different parts of the web.
Awesome. Do you know if there is a tool to find which organic keywords are converting on your site? Google Analytics doesn't seem to show the words. I can answer that question. I know that there's a great tool outside of one that our company uses called SEMrush. You can use that tool. That'll help find keywords on your site. I know that our company also has a proprietary software that does it for you as well, where we can identify those keywords as well. Is there anything else that you can think of, Cecilia?
That's about right. Yes, that's you're spot on, Jen. Our SEO analysts do use that proprietary software as well to determine ranking.
Great. What is the best way to do research on keywords and eye-catching titles for a brand new business, like a business that's in the works of a new site?
One pretty basic way is to search that keyword and see what your competitors are doing. That's one way of determining, of starting the keyword research. Another thing you can do is look at Google Trends. You can type in a keyword there and you can kind of see what kind of activity it's had over time. That's a good place to start. And then going back to the first point, seeing what your competitors are doing. If there is let's say it is a post that has a comment section, you can take a look at that comment section and see if it's really resonating with people. And then reading the content carefully to make sure that it's presented in a way that makes sense. That's where I would start with the keyword research. And there are many other sites and resources that can point you in that direction too.
Will it help with organic SEO ranking for somebody to update content daily by rewording messages with keywords?
That is a good question. And while I can see the intent behind updating it daily, I think that it's best to work on the SEO content and then kind of leave it for a little bit to give the crawlers enough time to index the page and then determine whether this is making sense to people who search it. For daily and quicker updates, I would suggest looking at search if it's something that you want to promote.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree as well. All right, so just so everybody knows, for those of you that haven't already asked, there is going to be a replay of the webinar that is sent out to everyone after the call, so you will be able to have this information outside. We appreciate everybody being on the call today, and we hope to see you guys on the next one. Thank you guys so much. We look forward to talking with you all soon.
Thank you, everyone.